how much was it influential in the current making of history of St. Thomas Christians, and how exactly were St. Thomas Christians prior to the synod? Like how the cultural would have been, and how much does it change after the synod, and its after effect on congregation?
Okay. So, as an answer to your question, I would like to say what for the synod was convoked. In fact, the synod of Diamper was being convened as a continuation of series of synods that the church authorities wanted to get convoked in India as a follow-up for 10th Council that happened from 1545 till 1563. The provincial councils of Goa were being convened as continuation for the 10th Council. And the bishops of Pius Malekandathil, Christians, have been called to participate in the provincial council of Goa. But because of the high-handedness of the Portuguese, which Mara Braha was a bit afraid of facing, he was reluctant to attend the provincial council. When Mara Abraham died in 1597, then Alexis Menezes, the Archbishop of Goa, what a chance to interfere with the affairs of St. Thomas Christians, and he convoked the synod. The purpose is to purge the community of the heretical practices, according to them, and the heretical practices in inverted commas. Because Menezes and the Portuguese, as people coming from Portugal, they viewed difference in customs and practices as something coming out of heresy. The difference in practice, the difference in ritual tradition, the difference in cultural practice, etc., were being viewed as heretical practices by Alexis Menezes. So he visited the churches of St. Thomas Christians and convoked the synod on 20th of June. And he identified certain areas of practices as something coming under heresy. All the suspected books were being burned, thinking that they contained elements of heresy. Teachings were being modified, ritual traditions were being modified, cultural practices were being modified, thinking that they were all results of heretical traditions. So we look at the period before 1599. There was some sort of uniqueness, some sort of individual tradition or localization of Christianity or local version of Christianity evolving in Kerala among some of Christians because of the mixing of the East Syrian theological tradition and the local cultural practices and the Christian theology. As a result of it, there was something, what we can call as indigenization of church or local version of Christianity evolving in Kerala. And this localized version of Christianity was something that the Portuguese found to be heretical. The St. Thomas Christians used to call it as a part of the Marthomayade Margo Vazhipaadu, the lower part of St. Thomas. So what all things that developed from within the community, the cultural ritual and the liturgical traditions that evolved within the community, they used to put it as part of the Marthomayade Margo Vazhipaadu, low and part of St. Thomas. For the Portuguese, who came against the background and who viewed the Indian developments against the background of Protestant reform, in Europe and the counter-reform movements that happened in Europe. They viewed all these as practices connected with heretical traditions, and they want to play the role of counter-reformers, remove and cleanse those elements which they identify in inverted commas as heretical. As a result, they reduce many of the traditions, practices, removed from the community. They reduce the power of archdeacon. They reduce the ecclesiastical jurisdiction of the of the episcopal authority, and put the bishop under the archiepiscopate of Goa, brought under Goa, and brought under the ecclesiastical jurisdiction of Padroda after the synod. There is the administrative transformation, jurisdictional transformation that happened with the diversity. Any practice, any tradition in ritual observance or liturgical celebration going against the Portuguese tradition or the Latin tradition was being viewed as heretical. As a result of which, many of the ritual observances that happened, that evolved within the community, they were being removed. Liturgical traditions were being rather homogenized, rather standardized, as to ensure orthodoxy. So uniformity was considered as an indicator of orthodoxy. And when homogenization is being considered as an indicator and marker of orthodoxy. And this happened against the background of Protestant Reformation. And they did with good faith. But the tragedy of it was, the long cultural and spiritual and the liturgical heritage of the community got tampered with. They have been modified, they have been tampered. The jurisdiction was being reduced, curtailed, and made to be, the Archbishop was made to become, the Bishop of Angamali was made to become a part of Padroada Real. And the Padroada Real is very concept meant extension of ecclesiastical authorities over the newly converted Christians in geographies and terrains which were discovered or conquered by the Portuguese. But St. Thomas Christians formed long before the entry of the Portuguese. And without respecting the long tradition that the community maintained over centuries, they appropriated the community and converted them and transformed them as part of the Padroada system. The liturgical celebration was made closer to Latin tradition. So they thought that Latin tradition ensured orthodoxy. So if the liturgical observances, the administration of sacraments, all being brought closer to Latin tradition or Lusitanian tradition, they thought that that would ensure more orthodox color, it would give more orthodox color to the liturgical observance of the community. It took almost 4 or 5 centuries for the community to retrieve the originality of the liturgical celebration. And for in the 20th century, they added the pristine liturgical traditions back to the community, ratifying what the St. Thomas Christians claimed in the 16th century, and ratifying the mistake that happened by way of intervention from the Portuguese through the platform of diversity. When the power of archdeacon was being curtailed, it was at a time when the bishops were from West Asia, particularly from Seleucid Church. They never knew Malayalam, has to interact with the rulers around. And they seldom learn language as well. So the interaction, the political interaction, social interaction was being ensured by an ecclesiastical authority called Archdeacon. He stood as the community leader, and he maintained good relationship with the rulers, local principality chieftains, and the rulers of different chieftaincies. As a result of this, at times the archdeacon exercised and wielded much more power than the bishop when it came to matters related to local principality chieftains and the local rulers. So the synod, the power of the archdeacon was being curtailed, his wings are being cut. Another important body that had a considerable amount of power as far as the administration of the church was concerned is Yogam, Yogam at the classroom level, then the Mahayogam at the top level. So the Yogam consisted of representatives from the members of the community, and the Yogam along with the priest decided matters concerning the community. So the power of the Yogam was also being curtailed. So Yogam functioned almost like some sort of republican institution where central issues concerning the church were being decided after discussion, deliberation between the Yogam. And the voice of everybody in that particular parish or community was being heard and given proper and due attention, and then the decision was being taken. So it involves certain amount of democratic process, and the democratic process ensured that everybody's voice is being heard from the grassroots level up to the apex level, and the bishop or the church leadership functioned within this format of Yogam, archdeacon, and the bishop. It was not one-man-centric administrative system. But now with this we find a shifting from this three-tier administrative format towards a one-man-centric administrative system whereby the decisions are being taken by the bishops coming from Padvadariya, which actually create a great amount of dissent among the different categories of people who were participating in church administration, in the running of the church, as well as in the preservation of faith. The radical changes that are being brought out in the community after diversity. One, the church structure got reformulated. Most of the churches were being erected, constructed by the same mason and the same workers who were involved in the construction of temples. So during the period from 8th century to 13th century, we find large-scale proliferation of temple in Kerala after the mass exodus of Brahmins around 8th century. So we find the Brahminical temples being erected in the low-lying paddy cultivating zones of Kerala during the gap between 8th century and 20th century. So churches also evolved with the same tradition, and Jonathan testifies that almost all the churches of St. Louis Christians were being modeled on the pattern of temples. So outwardly they look like temples, but the distinguishing mark between the temple and the church was there's a huge granite cross being erected in front of the church. So that cross became a marker, an identifiable marker for the community as well as for outsiders, as to identify whether, as to distinguish whether this is a church or this is a secondly, there were two crosses, one in front of the church, which is the huge granite cross that is made out of granite, and there is another cross inside the church which Janmada calls it as the cross of St. Thomas, or the South Tome. These crosses which are being seen outside, they are without the body of Christ. They are mere cross, not crucifix. And the cross inside, they are almost on the pattern of the Pahlavi inscribed cross that has been obtained from Mylapore in 15, in the early part of the 16th century. We find 9 crosses of this nature being obtained from different parts of the Indian Ocean, from what we are around Kottayam, Alanad, Kadamattam, Goa, and so almost 10 to 9 crosses are being obtained. They have got a unified pattern as far as its execution are being concerned. Almost like a lotus-like structure at the base, then a cross with the flowering nature, and the Holy Spirit being depicted as a dove descending upon the cross from above. So this is tentative thing, format, and above the cross there was the Pahlavi inscription. And it's Jonathan repeatedly and Portis also repeatedly mentioned that most of the churches are having only cross, no images, no icons are being seen within the church. So this is it. Most probably the churches must have been built according to the theology being brought over here from West Asia with Burma, Aikala and so on, Malbaha and so on, with the 3-tier system, people standing at the lower level representing earth, moving in a progressive way towards heavenly Jerusalem.
It's an interesting element which I just realized. Like the pattern where you have in Catholic churches you have the image of Assumption of Mary on the roof of the altar. Right next to that there is this lot of foliages, like tree leaves pattern. So basically when I did this conversation with one of the curator in Australian Museum, so he's talking about the carpets which used to be part of Islamic trade too, because they were considered they used it for the prayer and all that stuff. For them it was a tree of life, and stylistically this pattern and the design, floral design match with that. So kind of like tree of life in a paradise, because Mary is being transcended into the heaven. So the image kind of comes in between, like the people standing in the mass being placed in a in between place, and upper side you have this paradise depicted. So
Yeah, that's true. I mean, usually Mass is a reenactment of the suffering, the crucifixion of Jesus. And reenactment is done in an elevated space. And the place where the celebration of the reenactment is happening, that's considered a sacred site. That's done in an elevated space. So different meanings are being given and different vocabularies are being formulated as to substantiate the meanings. Then imageries are brought in as to ennoble or as to broaden the meanings of the celebration and the enactment process. So within the space, earmarking is being done, partition is being done, giving different meanings, whereby certain set of space is being earmarked for the people to stand, certain space is earmarked for the proclamation of words, certain space is being earmarked for the pure reenactment. And the process, a sense of sacredness, a sense of sanctity is being brought into the space, whereby a theology is being made involved. And the decorations are being done accordingly, and the decorations change from time to time, from period to period, depending upon the changing meanings that they attribute to the space. We find different icons coming out later and modifications happening with the period following the Diambacinal. So after Diambacinal, we don't find the church temple modeled churches, and because we find the Baroque style churches coming up, and even while erecting Baroque style churches, tentative theology seems to have been inscribed into the space. So we find some sort of East Orient position for the people to stand. And there's a progressive elevation happening in the space. So though the structure got changed, somewhere as an undercurrent, the theology still continue. Whether knowingly or unknowingly, it's a different question. Somewhere there. But the same type of progressive elevation we find. But the decorative style started penetrating the church from the Lusitanian cultural meaning. So outwardly the church looked more or less Lusitanian, but inwardly the same undercurrent of theological notions survived in different forms. The physicality of the church got changed, but the inner meanings of church still continued with the same cross. And the cross, same cross as the granite cross, again continued to be under the new meaning. The people from the church, inside the church, they used to move in procession and make a round around the cross and come back. Sometimes people used to crawl around the cross and come back. And this cross became something central in the religious processions, religious penitential process. They used to crawl from the main door of the church and crawl on the sand up to the main granite cross, and around the cross they make a round and they come back again back to the main entrance as a penitential exercise. So the exercise continued, though the physicality got changed. And inside the church we find the palladian inscribed was all being removed eventually, and icons coming in. Icons of different nature, different saints started coming in, they started picking up. Most of the icons are of the European origin, except a few where we find some sort of different ethnic representation happening. Probably they must have come from the West Asia. But except these few, St. George or St. Mary, except these 2, 3 or 4 icons, most of the icons must have come from Europe, either from Europe, directly from Northern Europe, because of the Protestant Reformation at the time of iconoclasm, when the icons and the statues are being taken to South Europe, from where they have been transported to India or particularly Christian India, part of Asia, where they have been kept as venerated statues. And statues are also being brought in as a result of the changes happening in Europe. So a new religious space is being created in this process of shifting of statues and relics from Europe against the background of iconoclastic context of Reformation. We find statues and different coming in. That's why statues of different cultural background are being seen in many of the churches. Yeah. They don't reflect one and the same Portuguese cultural background. They come from a plurality of cultural contexts. That's what I mean. So the church structures started more changing. Initial churches were all thatched. They were having thatched roofs. Even the Portuguese church of Santa Cruz, there was also thatched church till 1540. But later we find good many of them being tiled. Even the Portuguese also put a tiled, and the Dutch also churches had tiled roofs. I don't mean to say that all the churches had tiles and better tiles, but we find slowly the building materials getting changed over a period of time during this time. This is about the church structure and the physicality of the church and the inner dynamics within the church that's getting eventually modified with this period of time. Then the Portuguese always want to ensure that orthodoxy is maintained only when the European form of Christianity, European practices, European traditions are being introduced. So that was I don't blame them, that was the understanding of the times. So yeah, it's a cultural context which made them think like that. So many of the practices that the Sanatans used to follow were being viewed as pagan. Onam celebration, they used to attend the Onam, which was being considered to be a pagan practice. they used to have this tying of thali from marriage, and the hanging over the flower book or the flower garland, which are viewed as just throwing of garland of flower. How can it make a sacrament? So these are their understanding. So I mean, this is this indicates the way how the Indian Christians internalize the message of Jesus, how they formulated their own ritual tradition as to make it as a sacramental expression. So even now that's been followed in a different format. So with regard to the sacramental observations of marriage or death, something happened with death and birth. Birth-related pula was there and death-related pula was also there. They thought that death would bring pollution, birth also would bring pollution. So these are the observances which they maintained. At that point of time, they developed or imbibed the cultural practice that's so around them. I don't say that it's a Hindu practice, it's a normal practices that they so Indian practice, which is imbibed. But the senior time said, no, these are all taken. We cannot imbibe them. So, if you ask me how I look at the Synod of November, the Synod of Christians, it was not totally cut off from other Christians. It had linkages with West Asia, it had linkages with probably the Christian community of Ethiopia in a relatively insignificant way. But with the Islamization of West Asia from 8th century onwards, we find that the linkage was not that strong. Though bishops used to come, though missionaries used to come, though traders used to move between India and West Asia, rather in a considerable degree, there was no mechanism as to keep the pristine purity of religion. No disciplinary authority, no theological screening authority. So there must have evolved a lot of aberrations in observance and practices and traditions. In the process of preserving the faith, in the process of keeping the traditions alive, there must have happened some aberration. We cannot claim that the tradition that has been followed here was always true. So there was some sort of discipline that Synod of November brought in. That's one plus point because it's Synod of November. So it was in Synod of November that the number of sacraments was being fixed to 7. The number of books in the Holy Bible has been fixed to be 72. The seminary system was introduced for the entire world. So the notion and the meaning and the content of sacrament was being finalized in the Synod Trend. Council Trend. It has come not Synod Trend, but it is Council Trend. Council Trend determined the 72 books to be the final number for once and for all it has been decided 72 books. Against the background of Reformation. And sacrament, number of sacrament is also being fixed as 7. Symmetry system is being introduced for the first time, universal scale, Trent Council, seminary system. So all these systems had a huge impact in the training or the evolution of the present Catholicism. The Catholicism before Trent Council is one thing, and Catholicism after Trent Council is entirely different. There is a continuation of one of the same theological tradition. But we find the way theology developed, the way seminaries have been trained, the way Catholic theological understanding about administrative sacrament developed, they all got entirely different after the Trent Council. So since the November Synod has been convoked as a continuation of the Trent Council, we find the same theological thinking coming over here. Though we had the sacrament of initiation, baptism, Holy Communion and confirmation being administered together at one and the same time, We find people are being made to receive second donation after baptism, which many people want to be a repetition. For some people, we don't have it. But it was a continuation of the teaching of private hearts. And symmetry system that's been introduced. And even for the dead one, there's a notion of sacred space being created. Before that, people are being buried in their own property. Now the adjacent church cemetery was to be introduced and cemetery system was being introduced. Seminary system was being introduced. Till then, seminary priests were being trained under each individual priest who are being spiritually and theologically sound and learned, or they are being exemplary.
Also the language of the Syriac language being incorporated. It was also during this time only.
Yeah, you can probably say that, even the use of violin for our Syriac liturgical music shows that, there's some sort of Portuguese intervention as to use notation or as to formulate the Syriac music and the Syriac traditional chanting music, some sort of West and the East merging, started merging at this point of time. On the one side, we find lot of tampering happen because of the Portuguese intervention through the Hamburg Synod. On the other side, a sense of discipline, a sense of order, a sense of structure and organizational formats started coming up. The community has been divided into parishes, and people's names were to be entered in the register. So some sort of check and control started coming in, and people have been living in far off places, and there was no conveyance for them to come to church regularly. But now it has been stipulated they should come regularly for Mass, at least during the whole Sundays and holidays. They have been made to come for the church. Some sort of discipline is being instilled in me. So, if you ask me how I look at it, on the one side, it helped to discipline the community. It helped to bring in the new theological understanding and the new spiritual tradition that started emanating, evolving in Europe. That's been brought to India. Anything that comes as something that makes you grow, that's a good thing that we should appreciate. And Christians got an opportunity to get exposed to the new theological and the spiritual thinking and spiritual developments happening. Not a totality of developments, but one stream of developments, particularly in the Catholic counter-reformation space. That got a chance to get familiar with. Then, though there were churches, I don't know how durable these churches were, how long-standing the structures were. But now with the coming of the new time-tested architecture style, we find many of the churches being asking for some more time and sense of cleanliness. And that the canon, in that decree is repeatedly mentioned that the church should be clean. It should be made clean by pasting cow dung. That statement was not there. But the sense of cleanliness, sense of some sort of orderliness, some sort of structuring, some sort of discipline, some sort of sense of cleanliness being attached to sacred things. I don't say that this was absent, but probably they're bringing something more to that.
So that was in the case of Catholic Syrian Christians. So then what about the case of those who were kind of opposed to this, kind of led to the Roman push to the division within the Syrian Christians? How was it, why did they were kind of against this Syrian?
When we look at the Putagur or the non-Catholic segment of the Syrian Christians, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, though there is some sort of disciplining, some sort of orderliness being brought over here, this is from the Catholic point of view. From the non-Catholic point of view, it's a tampering. For ordinary people, it's a tampering. It's a disturbance that the Portuguese brought in there. But what they continued with within the community, that has been totally disturbed. I mean, the missions used to come from West Asia. The literary tradition was Syrian, and their observance was being now questioned. They used to have married clergy. So they took away the married, the ladies, the wives from the clergy. So the clergy got dissatisfied with one thing, because they were not happy at all. Then the liturgical tradition, most of the books that they considered to be sacred, they have been now considered as heretical books. They have been burned. So the sacred books or the prayer books that you hold close to your heart till now, and you have been taking spiritual energy out of it, and all of a sudden somebody comes from outside and says that this is heretical. You should better destroy it. That would invoke a certain amount of resentment among you. And obviously the people turned against them. Books were being burned, saying that they are heretical books. And the bishops, because they always used to derive the spiritual energy from the heads of the church. And the head of the church happened to be in the West Asia, not in Portugal or elsewhere. So the West Asian bishop was being condemned as heretic. And so the ecclesiastic head was considered to be heretic. Even now, for the non-Catholics, to condemn somebody whom they consider as their head of the church, as a heretical person, is as bad as calling them heretical, or as bad as calling them as bad. So they can't tolerate it. They can't digest it. So they were not adhering to a system that the Portuguese imposed upon them. So there was some sort of reluctance, there's some sort of resistance coming within the community after diversion. They were diverting commodities, pepper particularly, across the Ghat to Tamil ports instead of allowing them to go to Kochi. So we find huge flow of pepper going to Masulipatnam, Nagapatnam, Pulikat, Javanapatnam, etc. So the pepper earlier, the pepper used to go to Kochi. So we find from 1611 onwards the Portuguese vessels stopped coming to the Karina vessels. They stopped coming to Kochi to take pepper. Because pepper was not available there. The pepper was being diverted to Tamil ports. And who diverted the Sentinels Christians, who were the principal pepper producers and who were the people who were principally involved in pepper movement from the production center to the port. They were the people who were diverting towards Coromandel ports.
Okay, just talking about the Vartamana Puspam, like two priests. One was a bishop, I guess. They as a representative of the people, they travel, and the travel route is very interesting. Rather going to towards Cochin, they take route towards Madras, and from Chennai they goes towards to Portugal. That kind of a position is very interesting. And the book also and the sort of travel.
Yeah, that happened in the 18th century. That's around 1782, 84. Pius Malekandathil and Joseph Cariatil, they went to Lisbon and then to Rome to request the crown, or his crown, and Pope for a bishop, an indigenous bishop, to be sent to St. Thomas Christians. It happened against a different context. Usually, the St. Thomas Christians always wanted to move in an independent way, autonomous way, with their own bishops. They never wanted a bishop to be thrust upon them from west in the way they wanted. Here, Marthoma VI wanted to get reunited with the Catholic Church, and Pius and Joseph Cariatil hoped that if Marthoma VI gets reunited with Catholic Church, then all the St. Thomas Christians would come together. So there would be unity of the community. There would be some sort of oneness. St. Thomas Christians who have been divided in different groups at the point of time. The Catholic, they have been divided within one reasons of ecclesiastical administration. One group was under the Padronaria, connected with, linked with the Portuguese. The other was Propaganda Fide, linked with direct administration from Rome. And even the Jacobite group or the non-Catholic section was being divided into one group affiliated to West Syrian bishops coming from West Asia. The other, a few of them affiliated to the Parliamental Bishop Thomas VI. So fragmentation of the community into 4 different groups reduced the actual strength of the community, the bargaining power, the claiming power, the power to claim for a community leader for themselves, a bishop for themselves. They thought that by coming together they can have more bargaining power before Rome or before authorities to get their own bishop. So Karyatil and they went to ensure that the reunion happens at the earliest. So they took a route along the coast up to Madras, from where they boarded a ship to Portugal and met Queen over there, and then Pope, and finally ensured that Joseph Karyatil is being ordained a bishop. He was ordained a bishop, but on his way back in Goa, he died. There's a rumor that he was being poisoned by the then authorities of Goa. We don't know for sure, but there's a big rumor that started coming up from that period on, and it's still going on. And Paramagal is made the administrator, and after that, after his death, again the ecclesiastical jurisdiction still went on to the European bishops. So every time the St. Thomas Christians wanted to have either bishops from West Asia or bishops from within the community to come up and lead that care. But we find the European bishops, they were reluctant to hand over ecclesiastical administration. The community actually wanted a condition that would preserve the liturgical heritage, the spiritual traditions of the community, and they thought that a native bishop or a bishop from West Asia would allow them to preserve the same type of liturgical spiritual heritage that they were maintaining. The non-Catholic segment after the Queen Anglo in 1653. Actually, the entire development happened because people were waiting for a bishop from West Asia to come. They thought that only a bishop from West Asia, knowing Syriac language, would help them to preserve the liturgical thesis that they were maintaining. Because otherwise, they were made to use the Tampe liturgy, the Latinized liturgy and Latinized sacramental practices. And they wanted their original liturgical tradition to be followed, the spiritual tradition which they have been maintaining for centuries. That's the genuine dream. And Ahatullah, a bishop, people started saying that bishop has come to Mylapore, shortly coming to Cochin. The entire community got mobilized. They moved to Cochin to receive him. And Cochin, seeing a large crowd over there, the Portuguese authorities did not allow Ahatullah to disembark there, and he has been taken further ahead in the direction towards Goa. So a rumor started spreading that he has been drowned in the sea. And people got wild and agitated. They ran amok and they started beating against the city gates of Cochin. And finally they went to the church in the neighborhood, that's Matacheri, where they touching the cross, they took the oath that henceforth they won't be under the Sampalu priest. Sampalu would meet priest from the Sao Paulo College of Goa, the Jesuit priest. So with which began this split. And interestingly, cross is taken as a symbolism to fight against the Portuguese, the overhand, the high-handedness of the Portuguese. So the Portuguese have been trying to use cross as a method of ensuring to Latinize them and to bring them closer to Lusitanian tradition. This community also is using cross as a mechanism, as a legitimate means to fight against it, against the context of helplessness, utter helplessness of the community. So the meaning of the cross from the side of the Portuguese and the side of the Christians is different. Christians are using cross as a weapon, not as a helpless thing. They think that cross would give them courage to fight against their conditions of helplessness and fragility. So the people who broke away after the oath of Winning Cross, they assembled and they took a decision not to cooperate with the Portuguese any further. And the Archdeacon was being consecrated as a bishop. They thought that by consecrating, by laying hand on this Archdeacon, they can convert him as a bishop. Somehow they got the message and somebody fabricated a letter saying there is a papal bull which allowed them to consecrate Archdeacon as bishop with the laying down of the hands by 12 priests, and they did it. But they themselves knew that it is invalid. So they were frantically searching for bishops who would legitimize it, who would legitimately consecrate the bishop. And finally, a bishop came from Jerusalem who can consecrate him, and Archdeacon Thomas is made the first bishop, that is Bishop Marthoma first. So initially it's a resentment, whether it's a Catholic or non-Catholic, there's a great amount of resentment, there's a great amount of dissatisfaction about the way how it has been done. This is the central point. There may be good things, but how it was being done, that antagonized the community. Though there is a commonality of faith, Protestant and the Christians, whether it's a Catholic Christian or the non-Catholic segments of the there's a commonality of faith, that's Christian. But in the process of colonialism, cultural colonialism, the same faith is being introduced and is being interpreted in a different way. And the message reached in an entirely different sense. And the people who got hurt, they want to keep themselves away from the type of Christianity that Portuguese want to impose. And they want to develop a type of Christianity which their forefathers were being experiencing or living, and which the forefathers and the older generations were being using for deriving spiritual strength. So after Winnegroso, the community did not have a theological reason to formulate. They did not have a substantial any other reason or valid point to suggest. So they were trying to get bishops from West Asia. Marcellus came, and we find Margaret coming in around the beginning of the 18th century. But by middle of the 18th century, with the coming of Marivanius and Mansakrulla, the Wesleyan tradition was being introduced among the non-Catholic segments and Christians. So on the one side, with the Catholic segment continued with the Tambed liturgical tradition, with the Tambed theological and ritual tradition. On the side, the broken away group, the Putangur, who are the non-Catholics, they were being eventually converted and transformed into followers of Wesleyan tradition by the middle of the 18th century, and they became the Jacobite group. And later they got divided again into the Method Party and the Patriarchal Party, Marthoma, etc. in the 19th and 20th century. That's a different story. So what I'm trying to say is that, the forces of colonialism, the intentions of colonialism, and the way colonial forces played in this community, actually created havoc, played the villain role. Had there been the absence of colonial element there, then it would have been differently received and differently digested and internalized. But the forces of domination, the force of hegemony, and the force of and the coercion attached to the process of intervention, that made the scenario entirely different, and it fragmented the community. Nobody at the top level understood that point of time, the pain and the heart feeling that this fragmentation created among the members of this community, and the scars are still there, despite the passage of time. Almost 4 centuries or 4 to 5 centuries, the scars are still there. Nobody could remove that scars. That would mean so deep was the heart feeling that went into at the point of this fragmentation, this polarization, all in the name of faith. That surprises people like us. Everything has been done in the name of faith. And the things that have been done in the name of faith, if it creates some sort of heart feeling, some sort of pain of a long-standing nature, then that makes us think about the way how we interact with people of the same faith and people of the other faith. Whether it's of the same faith or other faith, there should not be any heart feeling, there should not be any pain, there should not be any wound, there should not be any scar. Because the message of Jesus is to love, and the message is to pass on the message of love to others. There should be considerateness, there should be empathy, there should be care, there should be care and love. So, if I look at, and these are the mistakes of the context and the cultural milieu within which this developed. I am not blaming, I am not judging. I am not judgmental about any community or any group or any authority or any people. These are the products of the times. That even the colonial interventions happen within a context, within a cultural context, within a certain type of socio-economic political context, which made the actors and the players take a certain type of attitude and certain type of position and develop a certain type of mentality while dealing with others. And that created the painful experience for this community, though they belong to the same community and same faith. So if I look at the positive and the negative sides of this and the intervention, there are many positive sides. But if you look at the size of negative impact, probably negative part is more. And the positive side is ignored often. Very often it's ignored and forgotten because of the type of pain that it imparted and type of the heart feeling that it has imparted. And now, fortunately, some of Christians managed to retrieve and recuperate most of the lost traditions, except few. Even now, the Archdeacon's position is to be reintroduced. The power and the position of the yogams are to be reintroduced. Except few, most of the practice and tradition which the Diamond Synod condemned as heretical are being reintroduced. Had they been actually heretical, they would not have been reintroduced. So this itself is indicative of the fact that it was not in the name of heresy or not for the sake of orthodoxy that the entire exercise was carried out. It shows that things happen because of the forces of colonialism that got into the domains of religion. When it got into the domains of religion, the entire development took a very negative dimension. This is how I look